The pregnant woman, in order to save her sick husband, ignored her own safety and climbed up the cliff, just to pick a rare medicinal herb growing on the cliff. Just as she successfully picked that precious herb, when it could finally cure her husband's illness, she accidentally overheard a conversation between her husband and his subordinates at the door of their home. It turned out that her husband's true identity was actually a prince. By now, his illness had long been cured, and he had delayed returning because the king did not approve of their relationship. For her sake, her husband was willing to give up his family and his future. After learning the truth, the woman was deeply moved and at the same time realized that she had held him back. In order to let her husband return to his identity as a prince sooner, she walked into the house as usual and handed the precious herb she had worked so hard to gather to her husband. Seeing how much his pregnant wife cared about him, he felt overwhelming guilt in his heart. But what he did not know was that when his wife turned around to pour the medicine for him, she added a packet of sleeping pills into it. The husband drank the medicine his wife handed him without any suspicion, and the effect kicked in the very next second. His consciousness gradually became blurred, although the wife could not bear to part with her husband. For the sake of his better life, she swore in her heart that she would never take the child to disturb his life. She then instructed his subordinates to send the unconscious husband back to the royal residence. As the carriage jolted along, the husband gradually woke up. He suddenly remembered his wife, who was still in the village. He understood that his wife did this because she did not want to burden him. So, ignoring his subordinates' attempts to stop him, he jumped down from the carriage, just to return as quickly as possible to see his pregnant wife. But when he returned to the village, the scene before his eyes filled him with unbearable sorrow and regret. The once peaceful mountain village had caught fire, and after being looted by bandits, not a single survivor was left. Even though the husband ordered his men to kill all the bandits, he still had to accept the fact that he had lost his wife and child. Soon, 8 years passed. The husband still could not let go of his deceased wife and child. Not only did he go to the temple every few days to pray for them, he even married his wife's memorial tablet. But what he did not know was that his wife and child were not dead. It turned out that in the Great Fire 8 years ago, the pregnant wife had narrowly escaped. However, because she inhaled too much toxic smoke, her throat was damaged, causing her to lose her ability to speak. The wife raised their daughter by herself. She originally did not want to disturb her husband's life, but a few days ago, she learned that the toxic smoke from the fire had already damaged her internal organs, and she had at most 3 months left to live. Looking at her daughter, who had outstanding talent in painting, the wife could not bear to let her be left without care at such a young age. So she had no choice but to send her to her husband. After asking around many times, the wife brought her daughter to the palace gate. They happened to run into the husband walking out of the royal residence. The anxious woman wanted her husband to know that she and their daughter were there, but because she could not speak, she was unable to attract his attention. Just as the husband was about to get into the carriage, she rushed out from the crowd, only to be knocked to the ground by his subordinates. Seeing this, the little girl began to cry and worry. The commotion finally caught the husband's attention. However, he did not see the woman's face and assumed she was doing this just to extort money. The little girl angrily demanded that they apologize. A nearby subordinate immediately drew his sword to threaten the girl. The husband stopped his subordinate. Seeing how heartbroken the girl was, he suddenly thought that if his own child were still alive, she would probably be about the same age. He told his men to give some money as compensation, then turned around, got into the carriage, and left. Kind-hearted people around advised the little girl to keep the money safely, so it could be used to treat her mother's illness. Unexpectedly, at that moment, the man happened to look back from the carriage and saw the little girl holding the money, believing that she and her mother were truly trying to extort money. Everyone helped the little girl send her mother to the hospital, but they were told that only by finding a rare medicinal herb would her mother have a chance to be saved. And the only such herb in the world was in the prince's possession. The little girl made up her mind to gather 10,000 taels of silver to buy the herb from the prince and save her mother. But what she did not know was that this herb was the very one her mother had once climbed the cliff to pick and give to the prince. In order to raise money, the girl went to the streets, only to find that none of the shops hired child labor. She had no way at all to earn money. By chance, the little girl noticed a wealthy merchant holding a 10,000 tael banknote. She secretly took a glance at it, and relying on her painting talent, she copied it onto a blank sheet of paper. She then took the counterfeit banknote to find the prince and begged him to sell the precious herb to her. The man refused the little girl's plea because it was the only thing left to him by his deceased wife. The little girl scolded the prince for breaking his word, saying that her mother was truly very ill. Seeing the girl so heartbroken, the prince wavered slightly. Unexpectedly, the next second, a subordinate took the banknote and discovered that the ink on it had not yet dried. This further confirmed the girl's identity as a fraud. The prince immediately became extremely angry, believing this was all a scheme by the mother and daughter to swindle money. A subordinate nearby urged the prince not to let the girl off easily, but he did not want to make things difficult for a child. Ignoring the girl's crying, he held the box containing the precious herb and prepared to walk back to the royal residence. Facing the prince's departure, the little girl was extremely anxious. Unexpectedly, the next second, snatched the herb from the prince's hands and in the chaos, even bit the prince's hand.